Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 4. Vidura approaches Maitreya. Today we're reading texts 14 and 15. 14 has no purport. I'll read it myself and then we'll chant 15 together. Text 14. Ādṛtoktaḥ paramasya puṁsaḥ pratikṣaṇānugraha-bhājano aham snehottha-romā skhalitākṣaras muñcañ śucaḥ prāñjalir ābabhāṣe. Translation. Uddhava said, O Vidura, when I was thus favored at every moment by the Supreme Personality of Godhead and addressed by him with great affection, my words failed in tears, and the hairs of my body erupted. After smearing my tears, I, with folded hands, spoke like this. Okay, text 15, we'll chant together. Konvisha te pada saroja bhajam sudurlaborateshu chaturshvapiha tatapi naham pravrinomi vuman bhavat padam vuja nishevana uttha komnishate pada saroja bhajam sudurlabarteshu chaturshvapiha tatapi naham pravrinomi bhuman vadat padam boja nishevana uttha kon vishvapte pada saroja bhajam sudurlabarteshu chaturshvapiha tatapi naham pravrinomi bhuman bhavat padam boja nishevana uttha. Anyone else? Bhajam durlabarteshu chaturshvapiha tatapi naham pravrinomi bhuman vadat padam boja nishevana uttha. Konvaishate padasaroja bhajam sulurbatorteshu chaturshvapiha sapi bhuvapi bhuman Vaishnavis, Padam Sadurabharteshu Chaturshrapiha Tatapanaham Prabhanomi Bhuman Bhavat Padam Padam Sevanakṣaraḥ Kondishate pada saroja bhajam Sadurabharteshu Chaturshrapiha Tatapinam Prabhanomi Bhuman Bhavat Param Bhojan Sevanutsuka Kondishate Pada Saroja Bhajam Chaturshrapiha Tatapinam Prabhanomi Bhuman Jani Sevanutsuka Ka na isha. O my Lord, te your pada saroja bhajam of the devotees engaged in transcendental loving service of your lotus feet. Sudurlabha, very difficult to obtain. Arteshu, in the matter of. Chaturshu, in the four objectives. Api, in spite of. Iha, in this world. Tata api, yet. Na, do not. Aham, I. Prabhanomi, prefer. Bhuman, O Great One. Bhavat, your. Pada amboja, lotus feet. Nishevana utsukaḥ, anxious to serve. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Translation: O my Lord, devotees who engage in the transcendental loving service of your lotus feet have no difficulty in achieving anything within the realm of the four principles of religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation. But, O Great One, so far as I am concerned, I have preferred only to engage in the loving service of your lotus feet. Purport: those who are associated with the Lord and the Vaikuntha planets achieve all the bodily features of the Lord and appear to be the same as Lord Vishnu. Such liberation is called sarupya mukti, which is one of the 5 kinds of liberation. The devotees engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord never accept the sayujya mukti, or merging in the rays of the Lord called the Brahmajyoti. The devotee can achieve not only liberation, but any success in the realm of religiosity, economic development, or sense gratification, up to the standard of the demigods in the heavenly planets. But such a pure devotee as Uddhava refuses to accept all such facilities. A pure devotee wants simply to engage in the service of the Lord and does not consider his own personal benefit. Om Jnana-Timirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So, Srila Prabhupada says in this purport that the devotee could achieve the level of sense gratification up to the standard of the demigods and the heavenly planets. And sometimes in different parts of the Bhumandala system and at different times, the human beings do experience these things. Srila Prabhupada has stated many times that the standard of sense gratification and pleasure in the heavenly planets is hundreds of thousands of times greater than is available on this planet at the present time. Kind of depends upon what yuga it is. In the 5th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the description of the other varshas of Jambudvip, we're in Bharat Varsha, but there are 8 other varshas in Jambudvip, and said that the residents of those 8 varshas experience life on the level of the demigods or the human beings on this planet in Treta Yuga. In Satya Yuga, Srila Prabhupada explains, the people are in samadhi. They have no desire for sense gratification of any kind. In the next yuga, the Treta Yuga, they have some desire for sense gratification and they enjoy it without any tribulation. And in the next yuga, Dwapar Yuga, there is some tribulation, there is some disturbance connected with the sense gratificatory process, primarily sex life. But the disturbances are fairly mild. But in Kali Yuga, the process of sense gratification is connected with intense tribulation and disturbance. In the Satya Yuga, again, there is no or very little sex life and there's no pregnancy. And in Treta Yuga, and in the planets of the demigods, there is sex life. You know, Srila Prabhupada explained that the human beings who lived at that time had immensely powerful bodies, and they can enjoy sex life for their entire lives. And only at the very end, in the last year of life, does a woman become pregnant and have one child, and that's it. And then in the next yugas, there are there's greater opportunity for pregnancy. But in the spiritual world, Srila Prabhupada said, practically speaking, there's no sex life. But even if there is, he said, there's no pregnancy. So, pregnancy is higher in the lower species of life. Like the cats and dogs, Srila Prabhupada says, they have sex life and pregnancy maybe twice a year and have up to 6 or more offspring each time. And even lower species, they have, when they become pregnant, they have, like snakes, Srila Prabhupada said, they can have hundreds of offspring. But in the heavenly planets and in Treta Yuga on this planet, only one child at the very end of their life. And as I said, in the spiritual world, no pregnancy, no abortion. Srila Prabhupada says that. So the level of sense gratification is on the heavenly planets much greater than it is here. But pure devotees like Uddhava aren't attracted to that at all. They are experiencing life on a higher level. And Lord Chaitanya prayed, Nadanam Najanamna Sundarim Kavitim Vajagrisha Kamaye Mama Janmani Janmani Ishvare Bhagavad Bhakti Hoitiki Tvai. Said, I don't want followers, a beautiful wife, a great reputation. I don't want any of that. I just want to serve you lifetime after lifetime after lifetime, my dear Lord Krishna. Savai puṁsaḥ paradharmo yato bhaktirodhokṣaje ahaitikya pratiyata yayatmasu prasidati. Stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam that the highest dharma, the highest form of spiritual practice is to render unmotivated and uninterrupted service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And in that way, one experiences a higher taste. In Bhagavad Gita, it's explained, Sukha madyantikam yat tad buddhigraya matindriyam. In a series of verses about the perfection of the yoga practice in Bhagavad Gita, it's explained at a certain point the senses become withdrawn from the sense objects. And at that time, the yogi comes in contact with the super soul and achieves the state of kaivalyam. And Srila Prabhupada explains that there are many definitions of kaivalya. One is that of the impersonalists, that everything becomes one. But Patanjali's explanation of kaivalyam, as he explains it, is kaivalyam swarupa pratishtha va chitti shakti iti. And that means when one achieves kaivalya, one achieves one's swarupa, one becomes situated in one's eternal spiritual identity. And that means not oneness, but he said chitti shakti iti. One comes in contact with the chit shakti, which gives spiritual pleasure. So there's an exchange between the Paramatma and the Atma in that yoga system. That is the actual goal. And of course we have the same idea, muktir hitvanyata rupam swarupena vivastiti. Real liberation doesn't mean merging into the void. It means becoming situated in one's swarupa, in one's eternal spiritual form, in which one engages in exchanges, loving exchanges with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And it's described, as I said, as sukham atyantikam yatad buddhigrayam atendriyam. One experiences unlimited transcendental pleasure. Sukham atyantikam yatad buddhigrayam. With the purified mind and intelligence, one experiences this pleasure. And where is it coming from? It's not coming through the gross material senses. Atendriyam, through the spiritual senses, which are part of the swarupa. So this is why devotees like Uddhava can be so neglectful of the immense pleasures and advantages that can come from the four Purusha arthas, sense gratification of the level of the demigods. They can reject that because it's false. It's coming through the material senses, which are temporary. And these pleasures are connected with janma, mrityu, jara, vyadhi, dukkha, dosha, anudarshanam. And intelligent people will discern, yes, if one wants to enjoy like that, then one remains entangled in the cycle of birth, death, old age, and disease. So, but everything in this material world is a reflection, a perverted reflection of an actual spiritual reality. So yes, there is a desire for loving exchanges, but in the material world, it's a perverted reflection of a spiritual reality, the loving affairs between Krishna and his eternal associates, which are experienced in different rasas. So there is a conjugal ras, and it is pervertedly reflected in the material world. The example that's given in the Vedic literature is like a tree, a fruit tree, reflected in water. If you go for the reflection of the fruit, you never experience the real thing. But it points to the existence of something real. Like Srila Prabhupada said in a Chaitanya Charitamrita class in 1967 in New York City, he said, yes, in the spiritual world, there are loving exchanges. There is unification. There is embracing. There is kissing. But not like in this world. In this world, the perverted reflection has to be controlled or avoided completely. Otherwise, one will never be able to experience the reality. So for that, we have to use our human form of life properly. Nayam deho deho bhajam nirloke kashtan kaman arte vidvujam ye. Tapodivyam putraka yena sattvam brahmas saukyam shanantam. So we shouldn't try to enjoy the senses on the level of the hogs and dogs. Rather, we should take up tapodivyam, divine austerities. And that may seem difficult, but the result is that one will learn how to enjoy on the spiritual platform. And Uddhava is experiencing that. He's experiencing the reciprocation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You know, he's explaining how he submitted himself, and he's going to be speaking about, you know, his personal relationship with Krishna. As we've seen in this chapter, Krishna has told him, I know what you desired when you were one of the Vasus, and now I'm giving it to you, my personal association. So, in devotional service, Krishna is reciprocating with us, even now. So we have to learn how to recognize when Krishna is reciprocating with us. When we learn to see that, I mean, Krishna says he's guiding the wanderings of all living things. So, Krishna can be reciprocating with us through the spiritual master. Yasya prasadan bhagavat prasado, yasya prasadan nagati kotopi. Krishna is within the heart, giving memory, knowledge, and forgetfulness. So, I can see if Krishna is reciprocating with me by letting me remember a verse. It's not my ability, it's Krishna within the heart, giving the ability to remember a verse or remember some aspect of the philosophy or something that his representative has, the bona fide spiritual master has said, or in some instruction that he's given. So, when Krishna was searching for the Shamantaka jewel that had been stolen, he eventually went to the cave of Jambavan. who had been an associate of Lord Ramachandra. Sometimes he's described as a bear, sometimes as a monkey, but he had gotten that Shamachaka jewel. He was living in a cave, and he'd given it to his child. And Krishna found out about it and went to the cave and went to recover the jewel. And Jambavan said, "Who is this coming to take my jewel?" You know, so he started fighting with Krishna. They were wrestling, and they wrestled for 28 days. And finally he understood. I mean, he was so powerful. He said, the only person who could be resisting me like this is my Lord, Ram. Of course, Ram, Krishna, Rama is an expansion of Krishna, non-different from Krishna. So, Srila Prabhupada comments that through his service was to fight with the Lord, because sometimes Krishna, when he comes to this world, he likes to fight. He likes to wrestle. So that was his service. And through the service, he realized who he was dealing with. So, in the same way, all of us are wrestling with our service. We're making an endeavor to please Krishna, Krishna's representative, through our service. And in the course of that service, we come to realize who we're dealing with. And that's what Krishna says, Bhaktya mam abhijananti, only by devotional service can I be known. So our service is our opportunity to know who it is we're dealing with. And it can be a big struggle, but finally we come to understand that we're dealing with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, if we can recognize how he's reciprocating with us in our service. So this opportunity is there only in the human form of life. Prahlad Maharaj said, Kalmara Macharet Pragyo Dharma Bhagavatam Iha Durlabham Manusham Janma Tarapya Dhruvam Artadam. This human form of life is very rare. It's rarely obtained. And even though it is very temporary and nothing is guaranteed, there is still the opportunity, artadam, the opportunity to attain the supreme goal of life. Prema pumarta mahan, Lord Chaitanya said. The supreme artha that human life can give is prema, pure love for Krishna. And this human form of life is obtained after a long evolutionary process. Not the kind of evolution that Darwin talked about, but the evolution of the soul through different species of life. If we use our human form of life for its proper purpose, then even if we don't complete the path of devotional service in this one life, we'll get the opportunity to take it up in another life. Sometimes, Srila Prabhupada said that some of his disciples at least had taken up the process in a previous life, and now they were getting an opportunity to continue. I had that feeling when I first met Srila Prabhupada. It was in New Vrindavan in 1974. I was there. I saw him for the first time when he got out of his car, and I started crying. Many devotees have had this experience. And I was feeling, yes, this is my guru from a past life. And somehow or other, I didn't completely follow his instruction, and now he's kindly giving me another chance. Now, whether that's true or not, I don't know, but it's true that how I was feeling. That's how I was feeling. And it's possible. But the human form may be obtained after many, many births in lower species. So that's the evolution of the soul. And that takes place because of the condition of the subtle body, the subtle material body. There's not just the soul and the gross physical body. There is the subtle body made of mind, intelligence, false ego, and other elements. So we have the same subtle material body during our entire stay in the material world. It stays with us. And at the time of death, the condition of the subtle material body determines what kind of gross physical body we will get in our next life. So it's like a real evolution. Darwin had a good idea that there was something that modifies lifetime after life and changes. He thought it was the gross material body. But the gross material body doesn't change one from the other, one kind to another. It's the subtle body that is constantly changing and determining the form of the next gross physical body. The body types are all there. Krishna has a whole library of available body types. 8,400,000 kinds. And according to the state of the subtle material body of mind, intelligence, and ego, one gets one of those pre-existing forms. But there is something that does change lifetime after lifetime. That's the subtle material body. But to get the human form of life is very rare. But it's always available. You know, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, we see that Dhruva Maharaj was living in a kingdom. He had his father was a king, there were queens, there were citizens, there were palaces. Everything was there in the Swayambhuva Manvantar period, which is the first Manvantar in this day of Brahma or Kalpa that we're in. Kalpa contains 14 Manvantar periods. We're now in the 7th, the Vaivasvata Manvantar period. So The kalpa lasts for 4,320,000,000 years. So Swayambhuva Manvantara is about 2 billion years ago. So the human form of life was there at that time. Of course, that isn't what modern science believes. You know, they think the human form of life came about fairly recently, maybe 200,000 or 300,000 years ago. But that's because they have a wrong conception of what this universe is. They think asatyama pratishtam te jagat ahur anishvaram. We're accidental creatures in an accidental universe. There's no controller of the universe. There's no purpose to it. It's just there. We're here. We can do anything we want with it because there's nothing to stop us. But according to the Vedic cosmology, the universe has a purpose. It's to, well, actually it's a double purpose. There are two purposes. It's a place for souls who want to try to enjoy separately from Krishna, to have the opportunity to do that. But at the same time, it's like an educational institution, because Krishna is always giving the opportunity to the conditioned souls to qualify themselves to go to the spiritual world and enjoy eternally with him. But for that, they have to give up their idea that they can enjoy independently. So to encourage that, Krishna comes himself. He comes in the form of his avatars or incarnations. He comes in the form of the spiritual master, the initiating spiritual master, the instructing spiritual master, the Vartma Pradarshika Guru, the spiritual master who initially shows the way. He comes in the form of the Vedic literature. The Srimad Bhagavatam in particular is the literary incarnation of the Lord. And this purpose can only be achieved in the human form of life. So the human form of life has always been available in the universe because the universe has a purpose, and that purpose can be fulfilled in the human form of life. So this is one of the things that I'm particularly interested in. So the Uddhava is an example of someone who's properly using the human form of life to establish his eternal relationship with Krishna. Of course, he has an eternal relationship with Krishna, but for our benefit, he's giving instruction. So, I'll stop there. Are there any questions or comments? All right.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. I have two questions, if I could ask both.
One at a time.
Okay, yeah. One is technical, not that it's of major importance, just for curiosity's sake, as you were mentioning in the very beginning of your wonderful class, that at the heavenly planets, the couples only have one child at the end of life. And I was just wondering, you know, each generation the population is supposed to shrink in this case, so how the population is maintained on the heavenly planets?
Well, I don't know everything. I know what statements, my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada has said, and I say them. But, there are examples of, in Shastra, although that is the general principle, there are exceptions. For example, there was Brihaspati, who was the teacher of the demigods. In the 9th canto, it's explained that he had illicit sex with the wife of his brother, Uttha. Her name was Mamata. And she had a child by that. Actually, she was already pregnant, but had a child because of the act of Brihaspati. Now, that wasn't at the end of her life. So it's an exception to the point that I made. And it's interesting, neither Brihaspati or Mamata wanted to take care of the child. So a child born under those circumstances is called Dvaja. And the demigods gave the child a name, Bharadvaja. Means you, in other words, you both, Mamata and Brihaspati, you take care of that illegitimate child. So his name was Bharadvaja. And neither one would take care. So the Maruts took care of the child. And he took birth as the son of Maharaj Bharat on this planet. And Srila Prabhupada explains that, yes, if something goes wrong up there in the heavenly planets, the child will take birth on this planet in an exalted family. So there are exceptions to the rule. Sometimes people also ask about the process of reincarnation and why is the population increasing. And Srila Prabhupada explained, just like if you have a school, like a high school or something, or a college with 4 classes, if people don't graduate, if they're held back in a class, the class will get bigger. So in our Kali Yuga, I think we're like that. A lot of souls are getting held back. So the population, the human population is increasing. But as I said, that's not a explicit answer to your question, but it's things that I know that Shastra says that relate to it. Anybody have an explicit answer to Maharaj's question? Okay. And then I'll get back to your second question.
Hare Krishna. My thoughts were that there are 3 lower species that come into the human form of life. So tiger, cow and monkey. So Prabhupada says that these 4 living entities take birth as humans. So those living entities are also coming up into the human form, which would also explain an increase in humans.
Yeah, but he was asking about how is the population maintained in the heavenly planets. Okay.
Thank you. for the class. Last year I was at the ILS when you gave a talk with Rameshwar Prabhu about the model in the planetarium. I was waiting maybe for you to mention, but it didn't happen, which is why I'm asking the question, whether there was any explanation which compared the Vedic model of astronomy to the modern model, and whether it doesn't necessarily invalidate modern astronomy. Things like the moon is not a satellite of the Earth, for example, and that it is quite possible that the Americans have landed there. Do you provide, or is it planned to provide an explanation?
Well, I'm going to get back to your question. I'm going to let Maharaj ask his second question, then I'll say something in response to yours. Because I told him he could have two questions.
Thank you, Prabhu. Yeah. Also, you gave this very beautiful analogy, which I never heard before, so it's very interesting that our struggle with the service is similar to Jambavan's struggle with Krishna for Shyamantaka. So I suppose along the line of this analogy, Shyamantaka means our attachments which are standing in the way of our services. So would you please elaborate how the surrender part looks if we give up our attachment to Krishna, give our samataka to Krishna, how our service should be looking then? Thank you.
There's, in something I was reading and preparing for this class, again talking about Patanjali's yoga system, where Srila Prabhupada was analyzing very carefully a statement that he made. The quote from Patanjali starts out with Purushartha Sunyatvam. That means that at a particular stage of devotional service, one becomes detached from economic development, sense gratification, all of that. So in our process, that's called anartha nivritti, or Srila Prabhupada says, Cheto Darpana Marjanam Vavamaha Devagni Nirvapanam, where we give up the attachments that are keeping us in the forest fire of material existence, experiencing the miseries. Sometimes in some systems that's also called nirvana, where you give up the attachments. But Srila Prabhupada says, you don't give up your existence as an individual spiritual being. You have to develop the positive attachment. So this state of giving up attachment for even the very shiny jewels of material sense gratification is part of our process. To get back to your question, sometimes I wonder why devotees are so concerned about Shastra contradicting what science says at a particular point in time, because it's a moving target. Science is saying different things at different points in time, and if you just wait a little bit, it'll be different. And or like the size of the universe. Now, I don't really intend to make light of these concerns. I'm just giving you one perspective. At the Temple of Vedic Planetarium exhibits group, headed by Jayapataka Swami, in which I'm a part of and other devotees are part of, we have developed a working relationship with devotee scientists, astrophysicists, astronomers, and others who are helping us come to good understandings of how these questions may be answered. And not only that, we want to engage, because sometimes the questions aren't really strictly scientific. They have to deal with questions related to philosophy and hermeneutics and epistemology and things like that. In other words, the concerns really aren't specifically scientific. They're more philosophical or theological. So we want to, in addition to our relationship with scientists, we want to develop our relationship with our devotee scholars who are in philosophy, religious studies, theology, Sanskrit, and other languages, and try to come to some satisfactory conclusions about these questions. So I was just giving a personal perspective in the beginning, which may seem dismissive, but actually we're taking these questions very seriously. And it may not be something that we're able to settle in one generation. Maybe up to you guys to figure it all out eventually, which I wish you all success in doing. But in our generation, we will try to do the best. But I think it is important to realize that what modern science says is constantly changing. Say 50, 100 years ago, they thought the universe was just our galaxy, the Milky Way. And then somehow they with a change of instrumentation, more powerful telescopes, they were able to detect that certain things that they thought were just clouds of gas floating in space are other galaxies. And now they have even more powerful telescopes, and they're saying now what we thought were that there weren't many planets like the Earth, I think now there are thousands and thousands of them. But with the next change of instrumentation, and they may say none of this really exists. It's all just reflections of energy from, and some actually are saying like that. So what science says is a moving target. And even they'll admit that, that we don't have any absolute truth. We just have a consensus among those who are experts. And who are the experts? Well, that we determine. You're an expert if we say you're an expert. But it's something that we're aware of, and that we are doing our best to attempt to fulfill Srila Prabhupada's desires.
Well, certain findings of modern science have not changed, such as the measurements between planets. And incidentally, the measurements between the planets have not changed for decades, for the longest time. And incidentally, these measurements correspond to those of the Surya Siddhanta, which is the Vedic text.
Yes.
And unlike the Bhagavatam, which we personally take as the reference for, a model, conceiving a model of the universe, why don't we use the Surya Siddhanta, which is specifically the authority for that department of Vedic knowledge?
We do. There's an entire section on the Surya Siddhanta and observational astronomy that will be part of the exhibits. Mainly, the questions tend to come up in terms of what's unobservable. No, the point you're making is a point that's definitely made in the exhibits. Before we even get into the Puranic cosmology, we explore the Siddhantic cosmology, because Srila Prabhupada recommended that. He said his spiritual master was a great astronomer and translated the Surya Siddhanta into Bengali, and later it was translated into English. So, yes, the point you're making is a very good one, and we do make use of that material from Surya Siddhanta.
Are we close to reconciling the Vedic authority with modern science? Have we made headways in that direction?
I believe so. As I said, we've engaged a wide selection of devotees who are expert in these fields, so that we're not just attacking straw men. We have trained astronomers, astrophysicists, and others who are assisting us in this effort. And I think it is, our understanding is improving. So it's not like, I think we can expect that the Temple of Vedic Planetarium that is opened in a couple of years is going to solve every question for all time. It's going to be an ongoing thing, a generational thing. There's going to be, as part of what needs to happen is that an institute be established to conduct ongoing research in these questions, to keep up with our improved understanding of Guru, Shastra, and Sadhu, and also to keep up with the ongoing changes in the world of science. So I think it's going to be a multi-generational endeavor. Just like we can see Krishna consciousness is an ongoing, it's been going on since the beginning of time. And there have been different acharyas come, different incarnations come. It's an ongoing, living process.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Okay, it's 9 o'clock. It's past 9. I'm sorry. I was really paying attention to that, but you got me off on a tangent. Thank you. Hare Krishna.